Welcome to the 5th episode of Coffee with Cal in partnership with Custom Bite. I'm Jordan Cornett with ESPN. I help Coach Cal annually with his basketball fantasy experience. As an extension of that fantasy experience, I am super juiced to enjoy my coffee with Coach Cal this Monday morning and every Monday morning for the next 16 weeks. You guys know what it is. Coach Cal, how are we feeling this morning?
You know, it's great. And I wanted Jude Thompson to be on again. I just took his mouthpiece out. That's my night guard from Custom Bite, but gave us and sponsored over $1 million to give to charity. We've given away, combined with other things, over $800,000. And Jude, without you and without your help, we couldn't help all the people we're trying to help. So, I appreciate you and I thank you.
Thank you, Coach. It's always an honor to get together with you on causes, and that's something we've been doing since you've been at Kentucky. And we just believe that you're going to turn this $1 million possibly into $10 million, and it'd be the greatest day of our lives if we could write that check. And
I appreciate you, Parge. You've been great. We've been great friends, and it's funny how we get together and it's like some good stuff happens to help other people. So I appreciate you. I really do.
Thank you. Thank you.
Coach is great people, but he's also partnered with some great people. Jude Thompson, no exception. Delta Dental and Custom Bite doing some great things. And look, through Coffee with Cal, any and all donations are going directly to select charities that benefit kids in need during this COVID crisis. Blessings in a Backpack, Feeding America, No Kid Hungry, and World Central Kitchen. However, don't forget, folks, the best way for you to help is by simply tuning in every Monday morning, 10:30 a.m., listening to Coach Cal get his interview on. He's a pretty good interviewer, I got to say. I've been pretty impressed. It's been a lot of fun. And I know you guys are typically accustomed to seeing huge names on here, one-on-one interviews. Well, they're still huge names, but we're doing it a little differently this week. It's a collection of big names. And as we just saw The Last Dance last night, going down memory lane to 1997-98, seemed like a perfect time to go down memory lane as it pertains to Coach, who was the head coach of those New Jersey Nets, the first-round opponent in the playoffs for those Chicago Bulls. So, Coach, how you feeling this morning?
I feel good. This is going to be a fun time. Having that group, Sammy, Sherm, Keith, and Kerry Kittles together to talk about that season, it's going to be fun. I enjoyed coaching those guys. I enjoyed being in the NBA at that time. Totally different than it is now. But we had a good run, and then I got fired. But we'll talk about that too.
Oh, well, we don't need to get to that till the end, Coach. We're going to talk about the good times here. And you heard Coach mention the names: Sherman Douglas, Kerry Kittles, Keith Van Horn, and Sam Cassell. And when you mention those names, there's going to be some big-time stories and a lot of fun reminiscing key components to a team that in his first year, Coach Cal, 37 years old, takes over a doormat in the New Jersey Nets, wins 26 games. But it's what that team accomplished in year two. Plus 17 in wins, earning the 8th seed, but unfortunately playing Michael Jordan. Coach, take me through. A 37-year-old, you're the it name in college basketball. You get the opportunity to step into the NBA. What was that like?
Well, the biggest thing I'm going to tell you is you're trying to figure it out as you go. And that's for me. And Kerry and I will talk about it. He was on that first team. Ooh, ouch. But I was trying to bring in players who had won in the NBA. Sam had won championships, had won in college, and all they knew was winning, and they want to win. And that's what we tried to do. How we had to play. Drafted Keith Van Horn as a stretch four before there were stretch fours. Karl Malone was what the four looked like in the NBA at that time. They were big and they were strong. They could make perimeter shots, but they were going to kill you around the basket. We were going to change that with Keith Van Horn. Defensively, we fronted the post back then, and everybody said you couldn't do it. I said, we got no choice. We had to front the post. We switched pick and rolls. We were doing stuff different to survive, and I didn't think we could do it defensively, but that's why we tried to outscore people. I think we were in the top 5 in scoring in the NBA at that point. And I enjoyed the guys. I enjoyed coaching them. I learned probably more from them than they learned from me, but I enjoyed the relationships too.
Coach, you were definitely top 5 in the NBA in scoring that season. And like I said, plus 17 in wins from year 1 to year 2. But it's what you did with that team. Got career years out of some of those guys. You look back at an undersized center in Jason Williams, who's one of the best rebounders in the NBA. Kendall Gill had his best career year during that season. So we're going to revisit all of that stuff. But, Coach, before we welcome them in, what do you remember most about the core of that team?
They had a swagger about them. They had a little chip on their shoulder. As the year went on, the last 10 games in New Jersey were sold out, like sellouts. You couldn't get a ticket to New Jersey back then. And they took pride in it, and they had a little chip on their shoulder. We were really young. We were undersized. They were not taking us serious. If you can't beat them, we're not winning. And all of a sudden, it's overtime. We should have won that game. The second game, they thought they'd bury us. We were in the game. It wasn't my coaching. I was still trying to figure it out. But I had a team that had an attitude that I liked.
Yeah, well, it's going to be fun to talk about, Coach. You set the table. I think it's time to eat. We've got Sherman Douglas. We've got Keith Van Horn. We've got Kerry Kittles. And we've got Sam Cassell to talk about that 1997-1998 New Jersey Nets team and all that it entails. Well, 4 of those members from that 97-98 team join us now. Sherman Douglas, one of the best ever put on a uniform at Syracuse, one of the crafty guys, a veteran presence on that New Jersey Nets team for you, is with us. Kerry Kittles, the young guy, the sharpshooter for your squad, who set the Nets record and rookie record for three-point shots made. Keith Van Horn, one of the most decorated players in Utah history. We brought him in from Philly in a blockbuster deal. And then Sam Cassell, everybody knows, a 3-time NBA champ, one of Florida State's finest. 4 guys that really made a difference for a team that won 26 games in 1996, 1997 to turn around plus 17, winning 43 games in year 2, earning the 8th seed, and a date with Michael Jordan in the first round of those NBA playoffs. So, Coach Cal, we've now set it up. You and your guys, let's go ahead and reminisce, have some fun.
Well, first of all, let me just tell everybody, the group that we had together, a bunch of good guys that had a chip on their shoulder, that had a competitive spirit. And you look at these 4, and they were the epitome of that. You talked about Kerry and the sniper he became, and Sam, who would lead us and could get people into plays, would make game-winning shots. Sherm came in, and we wanted – look, I watched Sherman at Syracuse. Who was on that team, Sherm?
It was Ronnie Sipey, Dirk Coleman, Stephen Thompson.
Think about what we're just saying. And the most important guy to guard was this guy, the general. You had to say, how are you going to guard him? That's what we wanted for us. And then Keith, we traded. I said, who do you want? We drafted Tim Thomas for them so we could get him. I saw Keith as a stretch 4 before there were stretch 4s, that he could be in pick and roll, stretch the 4 out. Keith, I just got to throw this. Do you remember going to Utah and you said, Cal, I don't think I can guard Malone. I can't guard him. And I said, well, I'm not sure you can either. And he'll probably get 30. You got to try to get 32. I don't know if you remember the conversation. I'm saying get 32 on his ass. We were, Sam, we were fronting the post in the NBA. You remember some of the crazy ass shit we were doing?
Oh, we was running, jumping at teams bring the ball across half court. We was running, jumping. Everybody got to front the post. We was doing some different things that the league has seen that year. So, but it worked. It worked for us, because none of us could guard the post defensively. So you say, took the burden off of us. Say, everybody get in front. They can't catch the ball. The guy, the low guy, the weak side low guy, if they throw it over his head, you got to knock it out of bounds. Next play.
We, it was funny. And Sherm, you and I talked about this. Do you know how many threes we took in the first game against Chicago? How many threes? Now, we took them to overtime. And Sam, you and I talked. We should have won that game. You were hurt at the end of the year. You were down. Sherm, you played out of your mind. How many threes, Keith, do you think we made in that game? Well, I'll tell you how many 14? You made. I'll tell you how many you made. You made none. Kerry, how many did you make? How many did you make?
0.
0. We were 0 for 6. Could you imagine that in the NBA today?
Jeez. Wow.
We were 0 for 6 in that game. They only took 9.
Wow.
Sherm, you and I were talking, watching these teams with 53s,
Well,
Yeah.
it's a totally different game than you say. You say you watch these guys; they shoot a lot of threes, and it's not only shoot threes; it's the depth. I mean, they shooting 40-foot shots, and they make it with ease. It's unprecedented what these guys are doing. I mean, I got to get their hands off to them offensively, and their skills. They are very talented.
Yeah, and
Well,
you
you
got
talked
Sam on
about
the
Cal,
side
you-
coaching them.
Yeah,
Saying
they-
keep shooting the threes. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Keith.
they-
What was that?
You
Keith
talked about front in the post. I mean, that's impossible nowadays, right? I mean, with all the defensive rule change, you can't do that today. It's just impossible.
Well, you remember,
So
though,
spread
what
out.
Sam said. I said, look, you can't guard him in the post, front him, and it's not your responsibility now. We were trying to do anything. Look, we were so bad that first year. I was saying, we got to try something to try to win some games here.
Let me take you guys back before we get to that playoff series. I'm kind of curious, and I was really excited to bring all 4 of you on because I think a lot of people forget that Coach was 37 years old when he took over that New Jersey Nets team, which is wild to think about. He was a young guy, but he was the it name in college basketball, which led him to that position. So starting with you, Sam, what was it like when you had this guy come in? What did you know about him, and what were those first impressions? I'd love to hear from all of you, starting with Sam.
Well, I got traded there the year that we only won 26 games, and he just told me the first day. I knew Cal from going to 5-star basketball camp in what is that, in Pittsburgh? Yeah, so I've been knowing Cal. Yeah. So I've been knowing Cal. So when Cal traded for me, it was an easy transition for me personally because it was just like, hey man, listen, let's just see what we got the rest of the year. But next year, I'm telling you, Sammy, we're gonna do something real special. I was like, come on, Cal, it's the New Jersey Nets. Said, no, Sammy, tell me. Like, no, and he was sincere. So I seen how sincere he was, like, but we always talk about this one trade we could have did, but he didn't do it. But that's another thing coming. That we just keep that between us. but it was a fun year, adding Sherman and Chris Gatlin and Michael
Chris
Cage
played his
better.
butt off for us. Chris played well.
We had a unique group of guys that, Keith Van Horn just came to the team. And from day one, Cal got with me and said, hey, let's make this kid a superstar. Kerry Kittles was in his first year going into his second year, and he was a primary 2-guard right there. So we had some pieces. We just had to put it all together.
And Sherm, I'm curious from your aspect too, because in talking with Coach, he said it was so important to him to have your presence on that team and all that you brought. As a guy who was already accomplished in this league and obviously so decorated from college, coming in from the teams you played prior, what was it like for you?
It was exciting for me just to be back in the New York area. And like Sam said, it was the New Jersey Nets. It was going to be a long battle, a long test ahead of us. You get all the things about the New Jersey. But when I came, I was the last guy coming. I think I came the first game of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And I got there, and I knew Sam. And one thing I did always admire, I just admire his guts, his ability to hit clutch shots, his ability, number one, not afraid to take clutch shots. So, yeah, I was personally happy to be on that team. I think it gave me another boost that I know I could play with Sam. I could play on the ball. I could play off the ball. I was just excited. I liked the way Cal came in and played. He wanted to play a lot of rat games. Just run around, front in the post because we were undersized. And we had Jason Williams in the middle who was 6'10". He wasn't really a 7-footer, and he was sort of a power forward. But I was just excited to be on that team. I was excited to be in the area, and I think that Cal gave New Jersey uplifting.
Kerry,
Well, hold it. I got to throw this out. And again, I was loud. I'm Italian. I'm loud. But 3 of you guys, I didn't get on that much. But one of you, I got on a little bit. Who was that? Who?
Kerry Kittles. Kerry Kittles.
Yes, you did.
Kerry, how could you say I let you shoot every ball? You should have let me yell. If
I
you
let
let me,
I let you yell. I was okay with it. For the most part.
Yeah, there were some individual meetings. Cal, I got enough now. Come on, man. Shift this to somebody else. And I got Sam walking in telling me, here's the trade I should make. Who is it, Sam? I'm telling you, make this trade. I'm like, this is crazy. This is the NBA. This is it. How about you and Keith, you and Sam playing together? Man, you two had a hell of a year now.
Well, I love playing with Sam and Sherm. I mean, just high IQ guys that knew how to play and made the right play, and I felt like the whole team was really a high IQ team, and I think that was a big benefit to us. And I think for the most part, you mentioned Coach Cal was 37 when he came in. Shoot, I think Michael Cage was older than you, Cal. I think Michael Cage was like 40. And I think, but I think the team responded well, even the vets who were a little bit older, and there wasn't a whole lot of an age difference. I remember coming in and a lot of the vets were like, Cal's a little crazy. And I was just coming from Rick Majerus at Utah. And so after my first practice, I was like, man, what are you guys talking about? Cal is like Mr. Rogers next to Rick Majerus. I mean, it's a whole different deal. So I felt like the guys really responded to coach well. And like I said earlier, just the whole IQ of the team was high, and we didn't need a lot of sets, and we could just go out and play.
I gotta just chime in. Do you remember the game you had in LA?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you remember that game. What'd you have? 38?
I think I had 35, maybe 35, 34.
And that's following having to play Malone, and again stretching the court and what you did. I can remember the statement by Sam. I said, Sam, why do you make all these game-winning shots? Every time the game's on the line, free throws, shots, why? Sherm said it. Tell him what you told me, Sam.
You got to make him. You got to shoot it to make it or miss it.
Yeah, he said, I don't care about missing.
Missing? No, I don't care about missing. Somebody got to take it. But the whole thing about that, Cal, I'll tell you about that. I love about that team. Man, we played together. We knew down the stretch of games that it's going to be a two-man game with me and Keith. And everybody else was fine with it. Everybody else was fine with it. I just tell Kerry all the time, if you run the court, I promise I'll get you the ball. I just want you to run. I just want you to run the court. I promise I'll get you the ball. And when you get it, go to score, So I gave the guys on that team the confidence. Like Sherman said, Sherman could play with me. The general could play with me,
Yes.
And general knew that he knows
2 point guards.
Yeah. I know who to get the ball to. Sherman, the thing I respect about Sherman, he knew who to get the ball to. We knew Jason Williams didn't want the ball down the stretch of games. He was going to do what he does best. He was going to rebound the basketball. You miss, he's going to get the rebound back and throw it back out. So everybody knew their job with that team. You know what I'm saying? Sherman, sometimes I told Sherman, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes you got to be a scorer sometimes. We like the passing, but God damn it, you got to score the ball now. And remember, he used to post guy little guards up and shoot his little running hook and everything. So we needed that, but that's how it was, like Michael Cage.
How about him in that game? You're hurt, and Sherm knows Chicago as well as anybody in the league. Would you say that, Sherm? You knew Chicago.
Yeah, I knew. I knew Chicago. I mean, everybody knew Chicago. We all know what they were running. The sets what they going to do. Where the ball's going to go to. It was just beating them. They was a tough team. They always be a tough team, and they haven't changed. They're going to run a triangle offense, and that's it.
And then you wanted him in pick and roll because you were all over me that game. Cal, just stop. Put me in pick and rolls.
Well, at Chicago, they always, and Sam, just being a point guard, you love them if they go under the pick and roll because you hit a couple of shots first, then they got to go over and they got to chase you. And Chicago really likes to go under, or force you down to the baseline. And once they went under and I hit a couple of shots, that just gets me going.
As we look back to that Last Dance episode that aired last night, the Bulls had a tough time with you guys. Everybody just remembers there was a sweep 3-0. You guys were matched up well with them. Going into that matchup, where did you guys see an advantage? Did you believe that you had a place where you could actually maybe get over on these Bulls?
Well, I felt like after our kind of mini training camp before we went into the series, I felt like everyone was confident. I know it sounds kind of crazy now. You're 8 seed going against a 1 and arguably the best team in NBA history up until that point. I felt like we matched up with them well, and we were confident. And I mean, you talk about the triangle offense. Sam mentioned it earlier. It doesn't work for 98% of the teams out there, but man, it worked for the Chicago Bulls because it was so difficult to double Michael out of it. And so Kerry obviously got the nod to guard him, and he was in the pressure cooker.
What was that like, Kerry?
Down on D, but it's that offense was great for them because it was so difficult to double Michael.
Hey, I gotta say this. Do you guys remember what we did to get ready for the playoffs? Like no one ever did what we did. Do you remember what we did?
Good. Keith just mentioned it. That we took the plane. We didn't know where we was going at after we got to the plane. You say
I said, get on the plane. Yeah, get on the plane, and we went to Florida. We showed up in Florida, and we spent 3 or 4 days in Florida, mainly to get ready and focus, but also to get you out of New York City. Like, we don't, let's focus on this stuff. But that was a fun time and what we were trying to do. And Keith, I think you guys built each other's confidence by us being together and the film sessions and what we did. You guys built each other up. And that was, again, Sam didn't play that much. Probably 15 minutes in the first game, he limped his way through. And Sherm, being ready for that and how you played, and Kerry, what you did. I think game 2, Kerry, you had like 17 or 18 in game 2. We had a chance to win that game.
Yes, we did. It was a great series, and like the guys said before, we matched up really well against them. We were a lot younger than the Bulls team, so I think with our speed on the perimeter, myself and with Kendall, that gave them some problems for sure. And it was a great matchup for us. We were very young, and it was an exciting time for us.
But hold up. So if Sam's healthy, does game 1 go a little bit different?
I think we win game 1. If I was just but they was tough, man. But I think if I was healthy enough to play the way I knew I could play, I think that's the game we could have stole. We could have stole that game 1 because they was right there. We was right there to the end of the game, right there, man. He played well. I mean, just watching, just cheering the guys on. Curry played extremely well. Sherman just was playing like 48 minutes, like the whole game. Cal called a timeout to give him some rest and everything. Cal said, Sherman, you cannot come out this game. And to his, Sherman played well, man. Sherman played well. The general was the general that whole series.
If I remember right, Sherman, I'm saying you call timeouts when you need a blow because you ain't coming out. But, hey, I got to say this. They played guys 40 minutes, 45 minutes. They played 4 guys over 40 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Like we had them on the ropes a little bit. But again, Michael, what did he average, Jordan? Did you look at it? I think he averaged like 35 in that.
He averaged 35 in that series. He was Michael. And Scotty and Dennis too were Scotty and Dennis.
Was it the game in New Jersey that he stared me down, or one in Chicago? Do you guys remember?
Chicago, I think. I think it was one in Chicago.
Was it in Chicago?
Yeah.
So I'll tell you guys, I read something that George Karl walked by him without saying hello in a restaurant on the eve of a game, and he went for like 60. Like, oh, okay. So for me, when he came up to me and we're in the timeout, I ain't saying shit to this guy. There's not one word I'm saying. And when I walked and he followed me, I'm not saying anything. So I turn around and I look at Kenny Gaddison. I said, is he still there? Because, again, if you made this dude mad, I mean, Kerry, tell him what he did to you in the regular season. Sherm's laughing at it.
Yeah, he was Listen, he was Michael. I mean, he had the ability to flip the switch whenever he wanted on either side of the court. So I caught the brunt of it as a young player in the league, where I had it going one night in the first half, and then he switched on me in the second half, and I don't even think I scored a bucket in the second half. So that was Michael in a nutshell, just being able to flip on that switch and just take over a game.
He looked at me at what we're talking about, and he looked at me and went like that. And I looked away from him, and I look at Kenny Gatt, and I'm saying, is he looking at me? So I look back up at him, and he went like that. And I go, Kenny, what's he talking about? I don't think he's going to let Kerry Kittles score. And you're right. He went from not guarding you to saying, I'm shutting it. I mean, you guys have to admit the dude had something special inside of him on both sides of the ball. If he needed to get 60 or needed to shut somebody out.
Yeah.
Sherm, you played – I hate to say this, Sherm, how many times you guys beat Chicago?
Oh, 0.
Okay, I
0.
was just checking.
Yeah. I got all that. But Michael, I think that's what sets him apart from everybody else is the effort he put on the court, both ends. Like you say, Kyle, you got some guys out there who would just play offensively. He put in 110% on both ends of the floor, and I think that sets him apart from a lot of other superstars who played during that era.
What else with that Bulls team? Everybody obviously leads with MJ, rightfully so, because he was so great. But you guys matched up with him, and in ways you matched up with him well. What was the other key ingredients? We know how great Scotty was. We know how intense Dennis was and his high IQ, his ability to rebound. But what are some things that maybe the average fan didn't recognize that made those Bulls so real?
I think there was a buy-in from all the players on the team to fulfill their roles, and I don't think you see that at quite as much today. You saw guys that were willing to just do their role to the best of their ability, and they dropped their ego for scoring or whatever. And you probably had some of the best role players ever to play the game. It was incredible, and the way that they were able to do that, especially with some of the really high level, top 50 all time players that they also had, was just an incredible feat in my opinion.
As I look back to focusing on that Nets team, Kendall Gill was another guy who played great basketball there. And at times, from what I read, Coach and Kendall would butt heads at times. But then I read quotes from Kendall Gill within the last few years that says if he was heading an NBA executive, he was an NBA executive, one of the first hires he would make is Coach Cal. Now, I say that because we're talking about an NBA team. The New York Knicks gig, Coach, is open right now, and naturally people are throwing your name out there.
There you go.
You want to address this right now, Coach?
There you go. Look, Leon Rose and I are great friends. I've known him for 25 years. His father's a great guy. He's going to do well. I'll help him in whatever way. But you got guys like, here's my thing right now. Why is Sam Cassell not a head coach yet? I don't know that. Sherm, if you wanted to get into coaching, you're a coach. That's what you do. Kerry was at Princeton for a while. He's over there helping out the Ivies. Keith, you got his own. Keith could coach if he chose to. And he would be totally different than me, more soft-spoken, yet firm and do his thing. But I come back to my time there. The league was different, and it was a different gig than it is now. I enjoyed it. I learned more from these guys than they probably learned from me. I got to tell this story. Kerry, you remember the first year we had that training camp down in that wherever I took you guys, Alligator Alley.
Outside of Tampa, yes.
Yeah, you other three weren't with us. So we go through training camp. After training camp, we start playing. And in the second week, Kerry hits me and goes, Cal, we're not running anything we ran at training camp. You remember hitting me with that? You remember?
That is true. I remember that.
And I said, none of it worked. I was trying everything. I said, I have to try new stuff. It didn't work.
And Jason Williams told you, Jason Williams said, Coach, you're either going to get it in practice or you're going to get it in the games. You decide where you're going to get it, but you can't get it in both.
Hey, the best one was my man Sam, who I love to death because on game day that dude would play. So one day he comes in. Hold on. I got to stop that and tell you, Do you guys understand when we brought the chef? Remember, I had you guys. We had the chef at the practice facility. But what I did was to get Sam there. You had to be there by 9 o'clock to get your breakfast, and if you weren't there by 9, you couldn't get. Remember, they would have a lunch for you to go. So you would tell them what would you want for lunch, and the guy would have it in a box in your locker, so you would take it. And you dudes were all so cheap, you wanted anything for free. Okay, if it were free, you were taking it. That got Sam to be at practice earlier because he was getting free stuff, free breakfast, free lunch. So one day he comes in, he says to me, you remember this? Sam says, I can't go today. I go, what are you talking about? You can't go. I can't go. He never would lie to me. So what did he? I said, why can't you go? So what do you think he said, Sherm? I just got in 2 hours ago, not being able to go. And I go, Sam, I need 20 minutes. Tell him what you said, Sam.
But I forgot what I said at that time.
You said, I'll give you the first 20 or the last 20. What do you want?
Last
Tell
20,
me.
yeah. Which one? Yeah. The first 20 and the last 20.
But you practice, all you guys, you know, the thing that I loved is when I watch guys play, and, you know, I had that thing in the office, every player, a career year, every year. And that if you played your way out of New Jersey, I was fine. If you played your way into more money that we couldn't pay you, I was fine. And the whole idea was, how good can I get individuals to play and how much can I get them to buy in? But you needed leaders and the buy-in. But I thought we were on a good path. I wish we could have kept a core together for 4 or 5 years like all these other teams did. And we weren't. And then we got impatient and started.
Hey, Cal, they wanted Stephon Marbury, Cal. They wanted Stephon Marbury, Cal. You know what I'm saying? They wanted Stephon Marbury. David Falk wanted Stephon Marbury in New Jersey.
Listen to this guy.
They don't.
Hey, I can't remember one of you came in because I kind of lost control of the organization as far as making trades and doing stuff. It went to where I was doing it all to where I wasn't. And one of you guys walked in and told me.
That right there was probably one of my biggest mistakes is I left the organization. And I think I went to LA for that strike shortened season. And I think one of the things I just thought about popped in my mind that came back when Kyle was talking about that. I think after that, I came back and Kyle was in Philly coaching under Larry Brown. And I can remember Larry Brown getting thrown out in New Jersey and Kyle taking over and coaching against us. And I said, you know what? That's loyalty right there.
Yes.
Loyalty right there. And he's basically throwing it right back in his face.
He did it on purpose.
Oh, of course.
He did it on purpose. And we won the game in New Jersey, and Eric Snow and Allen Iverson are like hugging me, dragging me off. And they gave me the game ball right after the game. And the Nets management came in and took the ball back. So you can't have that ball.
You took all that money, so they said, give us this damn ball.
Now, I do remember that time, and I do remember reading quotes from Keith and Kerry and Sam. Sherman, you were no longer there. But talking about how they didn't feel like Coach Cal got a fair shake in that year 3, that strike shortened season.
Yeah, but let me just say this. Let me just say, Jordan, we were 3-17, a new ownership group. They had a right to fire me. I mean, I just wanted to make sure that they were going to make their payments they needed to make. If they felt that I had to go, I was fine, but you got to make sure you're making your payments. But I just wish with you guys here that we could have stayed together 3 or 4 years to see what would have happened. We needed a true center. I would have stuck with Keith Van Horn as a stretch 4. Dude would have averaged 20 some a game. We would have played defense maybe different, because if we were ever to win in the playoffs, we couldn't have been the ratty defensive team we were. But we had no choice. We were just trying to make the playoffs. But you were all young enough. Sam, how old were you then?
I was 27.
Come on, man. You had another 4 or 5 years that we could have made a run. And let me just say this. Anybody ever say anything to me about Sam? Everywhere he was, he took teams to the playoffs. The thing I loved about Sam and Sherm, you guys respected each other. You knew you could play together. Sherm respected you. You respected Sherm. And I'm just saying, again, you all had a chip. Sam, you've always had a chip. You've had a chip since you were in high school. Sherm, you always had a chip. Like, don't tell me I'm not. Kerry Kittles, you went to Villanova, and at the end, you were pissed that you weren't the number 1 pick. Like, what is this? And Keith, the same thing. I mean, Keith, what you did, and you played for a great coach. Rick Majerus is one of the best ever. And I knew that taking you, and everybody said, why would you do that? Because we had to change how we were playing. And what you did and how you played, shit, we had a good group. But that first game, Sam, I'm kind of agreeing with you.
Yeah,
because Keith, I'll tell you, you know, Gat played good in that game, if you remember.
Yes, he did.
Gat played well. We ISO'd him on that 7 foot. Who was he? Who was guarding him? I can't remember. Who was it, Sherm?
He was going against Kukoc. He had it. Definitely had his way with Kukoc.
Now he had a chip on his shoulder too. Now, like he was
just crazy.
Yeah, that's true. He had a chip on his shoulder to me too. I mean, I'm like,
yeah.
Looking back at that franchise, what do you guys remember in the beginning? Because it was bad that first season for Coach, 26 wins, and the franchise was in a struggling place. You guys turned it into something that second year. But what was the franchise like in the beginning, and how did it turn for the better?
Well, in my opinion, you can see what Cal was trying to change the whole culture of the New Jersey Nets. Like my first year there, Cal, we practiced at Ramapo, Ramapo College. We practiced at Ramapo. It was like 40 minutes up the road. I was like, Cal, we can't find nowhere close to the Meadowlands.
Tell them what the locker room was.
Oh, it was everybody else. It was the school locker room.
So other students were in there.
Yeah. And we shared the same training room as well.
Training room, same shower. So it was wild. And Cal was like, okay, guys, next year, I'm telling you, it can be better. I got a facility for us. I was like, what is facility? He said, no, it ain't ready yet, Sammy, but it's going to get ready. So to Cal's credit, man, Cal tried to change the whole culture of the New Jersey Nets. And he did a good job with us. In my opinion, y'all know how other fellas feel.
And they fired me. But here's the other one. The one thing that I went crazy with is on the tickets, they put the other team's players. And I went nuts. Like they had every team that came in, the other teams. I'm like, bullshit on that. You put our guys on there. And then we did, you remember we did New Jersey? Because I said, we're New Jersey's team. Well, put New Jersey on there. We were trying. But again, it went from the truck stop to Ramapo to the practice facility that ended up being built to the chef. I did get in trouble one time with the commissioner, and I know you guys are going to say I cussed somebody or a writer or somebody else. We ain't telling those stories. But what I did do, and Keith, might have been your year, it might have been Kerry's year, I sent limos to everybody's house to pick them up for road trips. Do you remember that? Did I do that with you, Kerry? I only did it once. The commissioner called me and said he was going to find me. But we sent first year.
Yeah,
I sent limos to the houses, and then all you did is put your luggage on the stoop and get in the car, and then the luggage would be in front of your door when you get to the hotel. And they said that's extra benefit. You can't do it. That's like paying more. So we were trying to do stuff, but I'll tell you what it was. For me, the relationships that were made, the people that I learned from, it made me a better college coach. I'm telling you right now. And the relationships with you guys and all the other guys that were on those teams. I laugh. I recruited Michael Cage's son. So I got to get with Michael out west and spend time with he and his wife. He's still cut. You remember him? Cut at 38. Yeah. So, but you guys, I mean, the way you did it and how you did it for each other, that time, like we all remember. You know what I'm saying? It's a time that you look at and you say, hey, we could have done it if we could have stuck together a little longer.
Hey, Cal, how good was Keith Van Horn? How bad was Keith Van Horn balling? He was balling his rookie year, wasn't he? Hey, Horny, he was balling, boy. the high socks. Keith, hey, General. Was
Yeah,
you balling, General?
Hey,
I didn't really know too much about him, but when I saw him isolate, and then he could take it off the dribble, had a little crossover, and could pull up. Like,
Pull up.
Power forwards couldn't deal with that at that time. There was not many power forwards putting the ball on the floor and scoring off the dribble, pulling up, shooting jump shots, shooting threes.
all right, so now I'm going to give another one on Sam. When I drafted you, Keith, and made this trade and did all this shit to get you, Sam came up to me and said, how could you take a white guy from Utah? Are you crazy?
I did say that.
and after you got there, he came up to me and he goes, Cal, good move, man. This dude can ball. This dude can ball.
Keith Van Horn was balling.
Yeah.
I remember our first practice, Sam was like, Keith, you Mormon? You Mormon, Keith? No, man, I'm not Mormon.
He said, no, that's not I said, I know you can't be Mormon.
No, he's like, oh, that makes sense then. That makes sense.
That makes sense.
Well, Keith, Kentucky faithful should know about you, man. The damage you did versus those Kentucky teams back then. Yes, Kentucky would win the game.
They did damage against my heart for a long time. So I had to wear my Utah shirt today because we finally got a dub against them this year, Cal. I appreciate that.
How about that game? Oh my gosh.
That was incredible.
They beat our brains in out in Vegas. Larry's done a good job with that team. But I didn't know. These guys told me, because I never coached against you in college, but they told me that Elite Eight game, that was your best team. Doliak, Miller, you, right?
Yeah, so we had 4 NBA lottery picks on that team. Kentucky just had 8, I think. and I remember we got done with a 4.5-hour practice at the beginning of that season. It was early November, and Majerus brings us all in, and he gave us a rare compliment. He was like, "Man, guys, that was a great practice. You guys can beat anybody in the country this year, except Kentucky.
He didn't
just
say
can't beat
that.
them."
He did say that.
He said that. Yeah, and then we ended up meeting them in the Elite Eight. But no, we had a great team. They just Kentucky was stacked. I mean, you talk most college environments, you have 4 NBA lottery picture, you're in the national championship game. But Kentucky just was loaded, and but it was a great game. We lost to them the year before in the Sweet 16 as well, and so Cal, we have a long history of L's against Kentucky, so that made me feel good this year. We got that one.
Let me tell you, they were excited. Hey, Sherm, how about that team you had? That team that you had right there, but everybody's got to understand, talk about the Big East at that point. Every team had like 3 guys like that.
Yeah, I mean, I can look at it in my sophomore year. Because I think about this, my freshman year, I was playing behind Pearl Washington. So it was Pearl Washington, Raphael Addison, and Wendell Alexis was our senior. And the next year, I didn't really play at all. Then become to be the leading scorer. And Ronnie Cycli was there, Dirk Coleman was there, and Stephen Thompson came. And we went all the way to the championship game that year and lost by 1 point, which always kills me. But that was a fun team. It was like the team that we was on. It was all about chemistry, because we had 2 guys who nobody really talked about, who were starting, Greg Monroe and Howard Trish, who wasn't NBA caliber guys, but they fit a role, and they was chemistry, and they were seniors, and they knew their role.
I coached those 2 in the summer, and I loved them both. I thought they were glue guys. They could play now. To say that is to act like they couldn't know. They were talented. They were big. They would fight. They could score. But compared to you and Cycli and, those guys, you're going to be a role player.
Well, it was totally different, but I just think the one thing about that team was Coach Boeheim just let us play. He's a relaxed guy. He just lets you go out there and play offensively, unless you do something that you don't normally like to do or out of your character. That's when he'll yell at you. But other than that, he will let guys play. He was real relaxed and just roll the ball out and say, go for
it. Kerry, how was the Big East when you were in there?
Well, the Big East was still the Big East, probably not quite as good when Sherman was there, but it was still the old Big East with Georgetown, obviously with Iverson and those guys, with Ella Harrington, obviously you had Ray Allen at UConn. Syracuse is always great with Lawrence Moulton and John Wallace and Red Autry. So the Big East was a great conference to play basketball in back then. It was one of the main reasons why I went to Villanova.
Hold on, Coach. You're sleeping on Sam.
I got one thing. Jordan, hold on. Jordan, I got to ask this. Who beat Georgetown with that team they had that year? Because Georgetown didn't make the Final Four. Oh, it was UMass beat him. I forgot. Hey, what happened? What's his
That's
name?
like you, man. Marcus Camby.
Camby was a great college player.
Wasn't he? I still say he's one of the top 50 college players ever, in my opinion, what he could do. The greatest comment ever made by a college player about another college program was a guy on this call called their fans the wine and cheese. What'd you call them, Sam?
I called a wine and cheese crowd.
Yeah, in North Carolina. Hey, but your team, how about that team you had at Florida State?
Woo. Elite Eight, right, Sam? They lost to lost to Kentucky in the Elite Eight, didn't you?
We lost Kentucky in Elite Eight. Yep. Lost Kentucky in Elite. Yep, in Elite Eight.
Was Charlie on that team?
Charlie Ward, Bobby Sarah,
yeah,
Douglas Edwards. So we had 4 guys on that team got drafted in the first round. But that ACC conference, it was a beast. You know, Walt Williams, you had Kristen Layton, Bobby Hurley, Rodney Rogers. It was
they forget how good Wake was. How good was Wake?
Wake was loaded. Randolph, Childress, Chris King. They had a whole bunch of guys. They had a whole bunch of guys on that team. But it was a good conference, man. It just every night was a battle in the ACC conference. I think we sent like 9 or 10 teams to the tournament that year. Everybody from ACC was going 2 years out in college, but.
Well, that's what's so fun for me, guys, as you guys are going back down this path. As you look at the league today, what the NBA is today. You guys were such key players in the league during a time. It's a different game now. Do you think you guys would have even had, if possible, even better careers in today's league? Where's the change that you've seen most as you watch the NBA today?
It's just my opinion. It's the freedom. It's the freedom that everybody get. You know what I'm saying? Everybody gets freedom, but you earn that freedom. You know, like Sherman and Cal said, they're shooting 53s a game. You know, and I wasn't a 3-point shooter, but if the 3-ball was shooting like that, I became a 3-point shooter. you know, there's no bad 3-point shots in the league right now. You know, just fire them up.
They say
I think they all would have done fine, and the reason was they were smart basketball players, and they would have figured out, how do I get my stuff into this? Here's my one thing, and Sam may not want to answer this, but you other three, what about this COVID stuff? What do you think about, where would you be, you three? I'm leaving Sam out of this because he's in the league right now. Where would you three be if they said, hey, we're going to start up this season? I mean, what do you guys think?
I mean, I think that the starting up the season would be starting up the season without fans for sure, right? I mean, I think that there's a way to mandate some isolation amongst the players and the teams to be able to keep teams and core staff healthy enough to be able to play, but it would be it would just be a totally different environment. I just don't see how it happens right now.
What do you think, Kerry?
Yeah, I don't see how it happens only because of the testing part. So just like Keith said, even if you were to isolate the players and the organizations and staff, what happens if one person gets infected and has the virus? Now you have to have the test to support that to make sure that the virus isn't spreading within that one team. So I think it would be very difficult to have competition right now. And then you go out and you play a game that night right against another team, and maybe the virus has spread to the other players. So without the testing, I think it would be very difficult to pull off right now.
I know they're trying, Sherm. They're trying to figure out. They want to finish last season.
Yeah, they want to finish last season, but one of the things that a lot of people are missing is you got to restart this season. Somehow you got to get guys in training camp. You got to get guys who may get out of shape back into shape, and you got to get that going because if you just throw guys into games, that's when you're gonna get injuries. And that really, you don't want that. And like you say, if one guy gets it, then I guess you shut down the whole season. I mean, what do you do? It's hard to probably restart it, but I'm quite sure they're gonna give every effort to try to.
Well, Cal, you remember when Cal, we came back from the lockout year, and you saw the shape that everybody was in. I mean, they're not coming back in game ready shape. You can do your best.
What happened to us? We lost both point guards.
Yeah.
Now we had no point guard. Go try to play in the NBA, Kerry, with no point guard.
And back in that era, you had to have a point guard. It was imperative.
Yeah, and so you're right. And Keith, that's my thought. You better give them 5 weeks, to train, because if you think they're going to be here's what I would say: half the guys are probably into their bodies the way you would think, but the other half are not, and they need somebody over them. But here's what I'm going to tell you: I need the NBA to start up and play, because I got a whiff. And if I got this season, we got to play this basketball season, because I got a whip again. I haven't had that whip in a minute. So they got to play. That's all I'm talking about. Figure it out. Come on, Adam. Get them on the court so I can get my guys on the court.
As you guys look at it, a guy like LeBron, who probably really wants to get back and have a chance to win a third title. And Sam, maybe you can weigh in on this, maybe you can't. But as LeBron is on his way with this team, no guarantee that they can win it, but got a great shot. Does he have a chance to catch Michael in that conversation, or is that a conversation that could just never be had?
I don't think you have a preference who you like. LeBron is a great basketball player by far. Let's not get it twisted. He's real good. Mike is real good. So it's who you like. If you're asking me which one I prefer, I think Michael Jordan is the best player ever to play the game of basketball. Just saying them, but watching LeBron for 11 years as a coach, he's a beast. He's a beast. But Wallin is a beast.
Yeah.
So
I watched Kawhi in the All-Star game, and what I can't believe is how much energy he doesn't use to score baskets, to defend. He is almost like he exerts the least amount of energy and gets it and goes wherever it's amazing. I watched it in person for the first time. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, this guy, he just is scooting along and killing you, making 11 out of 11. And you're like, what just happened? Let me just say this, for you guys may disagree. I think the game has changed so many times, 5-7 times. And in each of those eras, there are players who will stand out that maybe wouldn't in another era. And you almost have to do it that way. Then there's those 5 or 7 that doesn't matter era. They're just so good. But, you had teams like Stockton's team and Malone. They're playing when I think Detroit had it rolling in Chicago, so they're second every year. Or Phoenix out west when Charles was there, and they had great teams, but so did the Lakers. Or Chicago, Boston had it going. Teams that finished second, and those guys never really got their due. They got their due, their Hall of Fame and all that. But you guys know winning the championship is how everybody's gauging themselves now in that league. No, Kerry, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. All the different eras. Some of these guys, LeBron could have played in any era with his size and what he was able to do on the court. And I think what we're seeing in Michael Jordan, right, in this series is his competitive nature. And I think that's what stands out the most is he just would never let his team lose. And I think, to me, that's why you had this conversation about who's the greatest player. I think his impact on his teammates and the respect that he got from his teammates and just being able to be there in the biggest moments. It seemed like he never missed in the fourth quarter. Guarding him, it just seemed like he never missed. So I would just say that today's game is a lot different. It's kind of hard to gauge this game with the speed. But I just love playing in my era because I think my era in the late 90s and in the mid 90s, you got a chance to have a little bit more balance on both sides of the ball.
Did those Bulls have more titles left in them, guys? We all know that was the last dance, 97, 98, before they broke up. You guys having played them in that first round, if they would have stayed together, how many, if any, more titles would the Chicago Bulls have won?
Oh, they could have gone on. If they keep their core together, they go on another 3, 4, or 5 years. I mean, they clicked. You know, Michael could have kept going. Scotty could have kept going. Dennis could have kept doing his thing. And they would have had their role guys that filled their spots. Like in my opinion, that train would have kept going.
3, 4, 5 titles, you think, Keith?
Yeah, absolutely.
Guys?
I think they earned the right to defend the title. That's the one thing that's missing. That if you win and you keep winning it, they should have stayed together. 4 or 5, that's a lot. That's a lot of treads on them tires to keep going for 4 or 5 more championships. But I think they earned the right to defend that championship.
Kerry,
well, I will tell you that playing against them and having the opportunity to coach against that stuff with you guys, for me, was a thrill that I still remember. I got the stat sheets right here, too, if you want to know how you did in those games. Kerry Kittles is saying, I don't want to know. You did all right.
I did all right. Second year play, I did all right.
I only played in the first half of game 1. I was on an IV at halftime.
What, were you sick?
Yeah, remember I had a bad stomach flu, and I played the first half, and I was so dehydrated they put me on an IV at halftime.
Oh man, I thought Sam called that the Rodman flu. What'd you call that, Sam?
No, I wasn't worried about that.
Hey, I know you weren't. I'm only teasing. Who was on the team when Michael Cage? We're in San Antonio, and he had to play 40. We went overtime, and he had to play 48 minutes. And walked in right after the game and got on the IV. Was that my first year or second?
Oh, that was second year. That was my year.
Second year.
Second year.
That was
Do you remember how that dude played? He was my age. He and I were the same age. And that dude played till they put the IV. Did we win that game?
I'm not for sure.
I can't even remember because all I can remember is dude's getting an IV. He went so hard. He was totally spent, but those were good times. Listen, I don't want to keep you guys more, but I tell you, I just had a ball. I can tell you I enjoyed coaching you. I hope I helped you in some way because I can tell you all helped me, and I learned a ton from all of you. I had a ball coaching in the NBA during that time, and you made it so that I could enjoy myself. So hopefully, we can all look back in the relationships we created keep going, and they have. That's what's crazy about it, and they have. So thank you for being here. Jordan, you got anything else?
Hey, I'm just in awe to be a fly on the wall and talk back at me. I got the general on here, the great Keith Van Horn, the sharpshooter Kerry Kittles, and a 3-time NBA champion Sam Cassell. Life doesn't get any better for me, Coach. So thank you guys for joining us for this. It's all for a great cause as well. So you guys, we really appreciate you doing your part and joining us for Coffee with Cal.
Thanks, guys. Great seeing you all.
All right, fellas. Everybody take care.
All right.
All right.
All right.
Well, there it is, everybody. Thank you very much for tuning in for this week's Coffee with Cal in partnership with Custom Bite. Find more about Custom Bite and how you can make an impact too. It's simple. Visit coffeewithcal.org. As always, a special thanks to the nurses, to the doctors, and the frontline workers for their efforts day in and day out. And Coach, before we let you go, you want an announcement for who our guest is next week?
Brad Stevens, one of the great coaches in the NBA, a guy that brought a system to the NBA, a great temperament, a great demeanor, a great mind, has helped me in a lot of ways. I've asked him a lot of stuff, 5 out, how do I do this? There are things I'm trying to add. So we're going to talk basketball, including college basketball with Brad next week. We're going to have some fun.
And we've got some new sponsors jumping on as well because the momentum, it's gaining week by week. People wanting to get involved, people wanting to help. Coffee with Cal doing special things. 10:30 a.m. every Monday morning. Coach Cal, another great guest, meeting of the basketball minds, and a whole lot more. It'll be a lot of fun. We'll see you guys next Monday. As always, Coach Cal, thank you.
Thanks.